Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. And in this series we're going to be going over Jupiter in the houses. And in this episode we're going to be talking about the 11th house, okay? So having Jupiter in your 11th house, alright? And before we get into that, I want to remind you guys to check out my music, okay? On Spotify, Apple Music, and here on YouTube. You just got to type my name, Sam Dolphin, and it will pop up with all my other astrology videos. Alright, so check that out. So Jupiter in 11th house, and before we get even into that, let's just go over Jupiter and the 11th house. Now, Jupiter is the planet of expansion, okay? This is the planet that expands everything, it makes more of everything, and it's even represented in its own structure as Jupiter is like the biggest planet. It's way bigger than Venus, Mars, Earth, you know, and because of this expansion, it represents abundance. Jupiter is connected to wealth, abundance, luck, lots of opportunities, and wherever Jupiter is in your chart, it's going to represent a lot of luck, lots of opportunities, abundance. So it's a great planet for your chart. And then also, it represents traveling, okay? Our long distance traveling, going into places we've never seen, foreign places. That form of expansion is Jupiter's well too, okay? This is how we expand our realities and our experiences, which expands our mind and what we know. And this connects to our faith, our spirituality, our philosophies. So that's Jupiter. And then you have the 11th house. The 11th house deals with society, okay, outside of, you know, just our like family, but like our friends, okay, our associates, our communities, society at large, groups that we get into, our social lives, okay, our network, okay, how we communicate through that, big groups coming together, okay, large groups, organizations coming together, our teams, you know, this is all 11th house energy. It also deals with technology, okay, social media, how we connect on a large basis. Yes, with that being said, the first thing I can say with Jupiter in the 11th house is your friendships, associations, your social life is expanded, okay? And this is with Jupiter in any air house. Jupiter in 3rd house, same thing. Jupiter in 7th house, same thing. Jupiter in 11th house, your social life is really expanded here. And so much so because 11th house really directly deals with, you know, your associations, your outside, your friends, you know, people you can reach outside of yourself, okay, outside of your family. So it really expands your social life, okay? People like this, you can make so many friends. You have an abundance of friends that you make and connect to, and you just keep happening it. And of course, you know, this is happening because Jupiter is expanding this already big expanded house, you know, 11th house. It deals with society. So Jupiter's expanding that, giving you no limits, okay, and access to so many people, okay? So there are lots of friends to be made, lots of associates to be made, lots of people to connect to, and a very huge networking life with Jupiter in the 11th house. And this is really good because we need connections. Connections is how we get higher in life. This is how we gain opportunities, okay? It's through knowing people. So this really, it's more than just social, but it really blesses you. It gives you an abundance of friends. This is something that you will never have issues with, you know, unless it's aspected in a certain way, you know. This is not going to be an issue. Friends, networks, connections, that's never going to be an issue. You cannot complain about friends with this placement unless it's aspected very negatively, because then that can possibly mean that you have a lot of like bad friends to make. So it gets deeper like that. But overall, Jupiter 11th house, it expands your network. Also, a lot of your friends, your groups, your associations, the cliques you're with, a lot of them are philosophical, okay? Because 11th house is not just your friends and associates, people you connect to, but it's people you connect to as a group, because everyone has a movement. It's an association. What do we all have in common? What is our goal? What is our cause? Okay, that's why we come together. So with Jupiter here, the theme of philosophy and higher learning and faith and spirituality, I mean, you make lots of friends with people you can like meet lots of people of higher knowledge, of higher learning, and through these connections you gain higher knowledge and higher learning. You know, you can like make so many friends of people that educate you on so many different topics that you normally wouldn't get in, you know, your educational school system. You know, this is like Jupiter 11th house, so it's like you make so many friends of that. And a lot of times with Jupiter 11th house, you connect with people based off of higher learning and seeing the bigger picture. Okay, this could be a placement for people like, I don't make friends with people unless they're thinking on a bigger level. They're thinking about the bigger picture. They have higher ideas and they're not so involved with the little minuscule stuff, you know, because again, Jupiter deals with the higher mind. It deals with how we see the bigger picture of our reality, how we create our faiths. So there's lots of philosophy, educational, intellectual friends that you make with this placement, especially on a philosophical level, which is again seeing the bigger picture. So yes, not only are there a lot of friends, but they're very philosophical. So very good placement for that. Also, your social media following is expanded, okay? So because social media and a lot of our friendships and pretty much the 11th house is our social media, is our internet, is the way we connect through these social networks, and it's evolving. A lot of times when I'm explaining the 11th house, it's definitely also your social media. This is how you look into like your following and how much connections you can make through this, because that's what we're doing with social media, is we're making connections. It's just an extension of that. It's an advanced way of doing that. And again, 11th house is technology, it's advancement, okay? So we're gonna keep advancing how we communicate, connect, you know? Yes, your social media, people with this placement, you can gain a lot of following, okay? So you start a YouTube, you start an Instagram, you know, whatever you choose to start, you can gain a huge following, okay? Because Jupiter is expanding your connections. So the connections you make on social media are big. You know, you make lots of connections, a lot of people following you. And this is great, okay? Because a lot of people create careers out of social media and being on the internet. Okay, you know, this is the new way of making money a lot of times. So having a huge following, okay, is great. Okay, you gain mass attention. So again, this is a very blessed placement. It's not just about a following and having lots of friends, but it's also a cause. You have to understand the 11th house is about how do we think outside the box? How do we get together and advance and use all our minds together to advance the world? You know, it's all about advancement. So the more following you can gain, the stronger your movement can be. So again, it's a very powerful placement. Jupiter 11th house is a very good placement. It's like, especially for this time of age where we use social media so much. So very blessed placement. You can gain a huge following. You know, you can have a very strong movement, okay, behind you with that Jupiter expansion. Also with Jupiter in the 11th house, a lot of the connections and networks that you make are foreign. Okay, that's a big reason why you have so many, is because they go beyond just your community. Okay, so Jupiter in 3rd house, you could probably have lots of connections within your local area, but having it here in the 11th house, it actually expands, you know, the type of people you know. So you can know foreign people outside of, you know, your local area, people from different countries. This gives you like an international reach with Jupiter in 11th house, you know, an international reach, you know, going through outside countries and really just expanding yourself as much, you know. So that foreign reach, okay, being international is also a big aspect, you know, with Jupiter in 11th house. Also with Jupiter in 11th house, these people are highly intellectual. This is a very, very intellectual placement because one, Jupiter is very like, has these big grandiose, you know, beliefs and faiths and ideas. But with the 11th house, you know, this house being ruled by Aquarius, you know, it deals with the mind. You're able still to look into the details, okay? Because that is mental energy, and this is an air house, okay? It's Aquarius. So you're still able to look into the details and intellectualize your higher ideas. So again, with that 11th house influence, okay, being ruled by Aquarius, you're mixing that with Jupiter. A lot of these Jupiter 11th house people are very super intellectual, okay? They're not just gonna have these grandiose, because if it was just like Jupiter alone, a lot of times Jupiter could just be like these huge ideas, but doesn't have the details to kind of like support it. But with the 11th house being this Aquarius house, you are very intellectual. You are very smart and mental. So you're able to intellectualize your higher ideas, your big faiths. So these people are very super smart. They say out of the box stuff, but they're able to give it logic and give you the details of these higher ideas that they're giving to you. And that's very important in order to balance your energy, because like I said, Jupiter can sometimes be so high, so overreaching, and not have the grounded details to truly ground it, okay, to give it some logic, some to make it make sense. It could be so far out. So again, with that 11th house influence, they have this nice balance. It makes them super smart. And 11th house is also, again, like technology and like thinking outside the box and advancing. So not only do they have high ideas, but it's also they think outside the box. It's very different, okay? It's very unusual. So very super, I mean, this is a very super smart placement. Like the type of information that these people come across, know, and can give is very unique, okay? Because again, Jupiter is already unique in terms of like its foreign ideas and higher learning. And then 11th house being the house of thinking outside the box, okay? And being different, rebellion, okay? And advancement, technology. You mix these two energies together, and this is like some very super smart ideas that have never been heard before, that are very unique and still grounded in logic. It's just genius. That's what I can say. Jupiter 11th house energy to me is genius. Genius. I mean, you can back your stuff up, and it's unique, and it's spiritual. I mean, gosh, you know, it's like a triple threat. So definitely a genius placement. Also, Jupiter 11th house people are very much freedom rebels, okay? Now, the 11th house deals with rebellion because it deals with thinking outside the box, okay? We understand systems, okay? And we understand that with the mind, with the 3rd house. And then we understand how to balance it with the 7th house. But once you get to the 11th house, this is when you now think outside the box, okay? We understand the box. We understand how to balance it. Now let's think outside. This is like the ultimate energy. This is Aquarius. This is the top air sign, the 3rd air sign. Okay, so when we get to 11th house, we think about thinking outside the box, being rebellious, doing things differently. This is the 11th house. So when you have Jupiter here, which is all about freedom, expansion, if you're mixing this energy about being rebellious and different and unique with freedom and expansion, I mean, these people are freedom lovers. Like, they're all about freedom. They're all about do whatever you want, do whatever thy will. They have a strong belief in this because they're so rebellious and so much about their freedom. Okay, so there's like no restrictions. So definitely, and they're also freedom fighters, okay? Because when we talk about the 11th house, it deals with social movements, how groups are working together, society. So a lot of times when you look at social issues, you're looking to the 11th house. And with Jupiter being here, these people like to fight for freedom. They hate restrictions. They hate seeing social groups being restricted because of this and that. They're all about freedom here. So Jupiter 11th house, they're going to fight for freedom. They're going to have a strong belief in it. They're going to suggest people think outside the box, do things differently, don't stay restricted. They're going to be very much about that because of the energies they're working with. Also, their ideas for humanity is really large. So the 11th house is going to represent how you see society as a whole because it deals with society groups, okay? So a lot of times your 11th house explains how you look into society. And with Jupiter being here, you're going to have big ideas, large ideas for society, what you think should change in society. You might have this crazy, big, huge idea like very revolutionary ideas, okay? Because Jupiter's that big energy, okay? So it thinks big. So when we talk about humanitarianism and social issues and stuff like that, you're gonna have big ideas for this, big ideas for change for society, you know, revolutionary ideas. You know, you're a revolutionary, you're here to fight for freedom, and in order to do that, you got to be grandiose, you got to be big about it. You know, you can't be small in order to affect a whole collective. So yes, again, like I said, picking back to that super rebellious energy, their ideas for society, they're going to be like, no, let's start a revolution. Let's go against the powers that be. Like, this is going to be those type of people are very, very big for that. So not only are they like freedom fighters individually, but also for the collective. They're going to suggest the collective to be radical. So they're very radical, very, very radical with this placement. So yes, that is Jupiter in the 11th house. This is a very great placement for Jupiter. 11th house, I feel like Jupiter really gets to be free here and expand its mind with no limitations. Actually, with even more help, because now it gets to be technical and be able to see the details. All right, so Jupiter 11th house, very unique placement. These guys are individuals, okay? These people are individuals. They're freedom fighters, they're leaders, and they're definitely radical. Okay, that is the word, radical. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. That is Jupiter in the 11th house, and if you enjoyed that, book a reading with me, okay? I do natal chart readings, astro readings, as well as tarot. So you just have to email me, and we could go forward with that. And check out my music and all my videos. All of that will be in the description box below. And I'll check you guys out on the next video.
You take me far, you take me so far. You're so damn cute, your eyes are like stars. And when it's time to